Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. In today's video, I'll be using Spellbinders August 2023 Glimmer Hot Foil Club Kit of the Month. It's called Overflowing Floral. The club includes 2 hot foil plates this month. There's a large floral image, let's see if I can get it out of the bag, and there's also the sentiment, "Hope all is well with you." You'll also receive a roll of foil, and the color you received may be different from what I received. I have the rose gold color. The floral image is fairly large. I'm holding it up to an A2 size card base, so you can see it's just a little bit longer than the card base. It's fun to receive a new roll of foil every month. My collection is quickly growing. Here's a look at the sentiment already hot foiled. I used a black glimmer foil color for it. This month there's an add-on to go along with the Glimmer Club. It's a 4-piece stencil set. I love having the coordinating stencils to use with images, and this is a really easy set to use. The first stencil has some of the petals for the flowers, a variety of different leaves. The second stencil has more of the petals and leaves. The third stencil has the inside of the 2 flowers and some small berries. And the fourth stencil has the stems and also some small foliage pieces. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm using the regular size waffle flower stencil mat. Using some of Spellbinders Opaque White Glimmer Foil. I've already hot foiled on some craft cardstock. I used an A2 size panel, so I couldn't fit the entire image, but that's okay, I will be cutting it down. I'll first line up the stencil, and I'm starting with stencil number 4. Once I have the stencil lined up, I'll use some of Spellbinders Best Ever Craft Tape to hold the stencil down onto the mat. The ink color I'll be using for the stems and the small foliage pieces is Minted by Catherine Pooler. I love stenciling on craft cardstock. The ink colors look completely different on craft versus white cardstock. And I will be showing a card using the same ink colors on some white cardstock at the end of the video for comparison. Moving on to stencil number 3, working my way backwards. After I line up the stencil, I'll hold it in place again with the tape. The ink color I'm using is from Catherine Pooler. This is Shea Butter. There's only a few areas, so it doesn't take very long at all to use this stencil. I'll remove stencil number 3 and bring in stencil number 2. There are a lot more areas on the last 2 stencils. I'll have the flowers and the leaves, so I will be using 2 different ink colors. I'll start with the flowers. The ink color is Serene by Catherine Pooler. It's a very light purple color, although it looks different on craft cardstock. There are only 3 areas with the flowers, 2 open flowers and 1 bud. I have 1 final petal to finish. Now I'll start working on the leaves. The ink color I'm using is Spruce by Catherine Pooler. I'll first wipe off some of the ink on the mat since I'll be using the same blending brush for the 2 green ink colors. I'll start with the leaves that aren't quite as close to the flowers. To make sure I don't get any ink on the flowers, I'm using a piece of paper and covering up those floral areas. And I'll move that piece of paper to cover up the flower in the upper left-hand corner so I can get that final small leaf. Now I'll remove stencil number 2 and bring in the final stencil layer number 1. And it looks very similar to the first stencil, it's just the opposite leaves and petals. I'll start with the flowers again. The ink color I'm using is Crushed Violet by Catherine Pooler, just a slightly darker purple color. I'm using the piece of paper to cover up the leaf areas so I can get all of the petals stenciled. And I'll do the same thing when I move on to the leaves, covering up the flowers. Purple isn't usually the color I would reach for first, but I thought the flowers would look really pretty in purple. As much as I love using pink, it's always good to use other colors since the cards aren't for me. Once I've finished with the flowers, I'll move on to the last of the leaves. The ink color I'm using is Deck the Halls by Catherine Pooler. It's a darker green color. For greenery, I love using Deck the Halls and Spruce. Spruce is a slightly warmer green color than Deck the Halls, but I think they work really well together. I'll finish up the last of the leaves in the lower right-hand corner. Then my favorite moment, removing the stencil to see the final results. I love how this turned out. Since I used the opaque white glimmer foil, it doesn't have all the shine, but I really like the look of the white outline. Using one of Spellbinders' Essential Stylish Oval dies, I'll cut out the floral image, and I'm trying to feature the 3 flowers as much as I can. I'll hold the die in place using some of Spellbinders' Best Ever Craft Tape. Using the next size up oval die, I'll cut out a layer from some dark green cardstock. Then I'll adhere the 2 pieces together using Barely Art glue. It's nice that Spellbinders' essential shape die sets have so many different sizes. Makes it really easy to create the perfect layer. For pattern paper, I'm using Catherine Pooler's Apothecary Plaid. There's a purple color that matches Catherine Pooler's Crushed Violet ink color. I'll put glue on the back and attach my floral image. Then I'll flip over this panel, put ATG tape on the back, and add my card front onto a card base. This is an American Standard A2 size card, 4¼ inches by 5½ inches. I did hot foil some of the sentiments that are included with the Glimmer Club, but I decided not to use them on my card. Instead, I stamped out Thinking of You, and this is from Spellbinders' Fill My Heart Sentiment stamp set. Using black ink, I stamped it on some white cardstock. I cut the left side at an angle, and I'll be adhering it in the lower left-hand corner. Before adhering it to the card, I'll put a small piece of foam on the very left side, and behind the rest of the sentiment, I'm adding a scrap piece of cardstock, and that will help keep everything nice and level. For embellishments, I'm using some of Spellbinders' brand new dimensional dots. They have several different colors available. The set I'm using is 2-tone purple. There are 3 different sizes of dots on each of the sets. I'm using the lighter purple color. I'll put 3 in the upper right-hand corner and 2 in the lower left-hand corner underneath the sentiment. And I like that the dots are on the smaller size, so they won't add a lot of extra dimension. So there is my finished card, and I did make 3 using this design. The second card features the same ink colors. For the background, I used some white shimmer cardstock. So you can see the comparison of the craft cardstock and the white cardstock. For the last card, I didn't use the coordinating stencil. It features some beautiful teal glimmer foil. I layered the image on some dark teal cardstock and used some light plaid pattern paper for the background. If you are interested in subscribing to any of Spellbinders club kits, I do have links provided in the description box below. Subscriptions open to new subscribers on the 6th of the month and close on the 27th. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.